Welcome in to the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy. Today we're joined by Jonathan Huddle from Electron Automation live from ICC 2025. Guys, welcome in.
Hey, Jeff. Yep. I'll tell you what, it's great to have Jonathan here. I'm your co-host, Mike Lotus, with the Energy Tech Podcast right here in the heart of Sacramento with ICC 2025. And with us is one of our colleagues, guests, and just a community member, Mr. Jonathan Huddle with Electron Automation. Jonathan, it's good to have you on the show, man.
Mike, it's good to see you.
Yes.
You too, Jeff.
You too, Jeff. Exactly. Thanks. Yes. Jeff's speechless. Yeah. Good to have you. You know, Jonathan, I've, got to know you a little bit, just kind of working in and around you, and you're a member in the community. And, a lot of times we have lots of new, viewers and listeners that join the podcast. So just kind of give us your 2-minute commercial, man, about you, your infomercial, if you will.
I'm going to need a little time here.
That's fine. Bring it, man.
Okay. So about me. So it started early.
Yeah.
So my dad owned an electronics repair shop. So from a very young age, I was digging into the parts, and I got a love for troubleshooting, electronics, and computers, and microcontrollers. I've got more Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. So the Internet of Things has been my hobby for pretty much since they started using that term.
Yep.
But that finally converged with my day job. So I've been doing automation in the oil and gas industry for about 25 years. Started in the field, automating new drills, retrofits, some PLC programming and RTU configuration.
Yeah.
But the last 20 years, though, I got an opportunity to start building SCADA host systems for oil and gas.
Right.
So started with Wonderware, Clear SCADA, and then I finally had an opportunity to upgrade to Ignition about 10 years ago. And whenever I started, I've never had to, the demand has been there to keep me in Ignition, so I kind of appreciate that. So.
Yeah. Well, hold on. One thing people don't know about you, which I think is kind of interesting, is you're also an electrician.
Yeah, and I still keep that certification as a backup plan, just in case I need to switch. But having some of that perspective of what the hardware really is kind of helpful to the team sometimes.
Yeah, and so I want to add something here because, Jonathan, I've had a chance to know you and learn that you're a big part of the IOGC, which is the Ignition Oil and Gas Collective. That's originally how I, met you and started to engage with you on projects and conversations. So this is one element. I want you to kind of just talk about what IOGC is, because we're going to relate this back to inductive automation and how it relates to the community.
Sure. So when we started with Ignition, we wanted something better. Obviously, we were upgrading an old SCADA system, and it seemed like Ignition was a good fit, but we didn't see a lot of people in the industry using it. So we were a little scared. And IA connected a few owners, some oil and gas users that were using Ignition. And from those conversations, they were so good, even though we're all competitors, it seemed like there was too much value to meeting up on a regular basis and actually exchanging some of these ideas so that we're not all recreating these wheels. So 10 years ago or so, we started getting together, and that's really evolved to over 275 companies are represented in the oil and gas collective group, and about it's under 400 members. So we're all volunteers. No money changes hands. We just are excited, and we want to go get together and exchange some info.
Yeah, so what you have is, an alliance and a collective of like-minded individuals that are looking to advance Ignition, right, in the group, and solve problems, right?
Yeah.
And now, you've also been to ICC a few times, And, I met you, we were both here in 2023. I had the chance to participate with the IOGC again just this week. Earlier in the week, I had the same opportunity. And, I want to ask you, Jonathan, this year, the theme for Ignition is level up. And they've done that a few ways. And I've talked about this on other episodes, but Ignition has really gone out of the way to level up in ways such as the new venue right here instead of Folsom, much more room. Second is 8.3 with some release information, some really helpful tools, lots of growth there. I think the third thing is they're adding this prove it element to Ignition, that flavor that was born back in February or even before that, I guess, as a thought Walker Reynolds and team had from 4.0 Solutions. The fourth way is I think when you have groups like Energy Tech Podcast that get to join the community and participate in talking about it, I think that's another way you level up. So you really add a dimension to the experience that you otherwise wouldn't have. Having said that, for you, what do you think is different this year than the previous years you've been here?
Well, number one, this is bigger, right? It feels like there's twice as many people. We're still seeing a lot of the familiar faces, people that have always been excited about Ignition.
Right.
I think the biggest change, this is like day 2 of the conference, I've realized that Ignition, Inductive themselves, they're leveling up their framework, just like we do when we build these systems.
Right.
And they're excited. They're kind of excited about the things they're going to be adding on. So there's a few features that have come out that I think are going to be game changers for all of us.
Yeah, and Jonathan, you've also been in the industry, especially in energy, oil and gas, for some time, and you're still getting your hands on projects. And with all the different modules and opportunities and great tools, I think there's still some challenges that happen in the industry. And when you gave me an opportunity to speak, I talked about that in part of a digital journey. Over the years that you've been doing this, in your mind, what do you think are some of the biggest, I'd say, obstacles in terms of, or hurdles in terms of actually transforming with Ignition, right?
So there's several things that we keep encountering over and over. And one of them is the systems we're replacing pretty much all of the time, the tag structure is not right? But there are still brand new systems where the tag structure is not being built right. And you might hear a mantra of the unified namespace. Well, we can simplify that to the basis is your tag structure, like the data model, the unified namespace. That is one of my biggest goals, is to more clearly articulate that to the group, because the public at large with Ignition, because there is nothing more important than this time around when you're rebuilding your SCADA system. Maybe it's even Ignition 7.9, right? That tag structure probably wasn't right. So building that to empower you inside of Ignition with like a perspective, if you want to build a dynamic, flexible, responsive perspective app, you need that clean, unified namespace.
Right.
But also those downstream applications, maybe we don't know what the killer app that's just going to print money is, right? It could be AI. Obviously, it's AI. We know it's AI. But getting prepared for that, you have to lay this groundwork first. You can't just bolt that onto an old system and expect this to work.
So what I'm hearing from you, which is the common theme everywhere I go and every end user customer that I've worked with, is when you evangelize the fact, not an idea, fact that your UDTs, your dynamic structure has got to be thought through so that you're enabling for cloud data, but you're also enabling for other data ops and opportunities that you might have downstream, right? Is that what you're getting at?
You're enabling yourself, right?
Yeah.
When the head of production comes and asks you for a feature, so my first ignition system that I built,
Yeah.
at the end I was fairly happy. It definitely was not perfect, and it's dead and gone by now. But he actually came to me one time and asked for a new feature, and we always were in the routine of saying, okay, we'll think about that. It might be complicated. I came back to his office within an hour. It didn't happen all the time. Came to his office within an hour and said it's done, and his eyes lit up like we didn't get that with the old system. So that's empowering yourself to rapidly innovate and add value.
Right. And so, yeah, so you just said something there, because if you're doing that with your UDTs, let's say at the edge on your structured data, what you're saying is, hey, I've eliminated that additional work. Even later, if I want to add other devices, or if I want to work something into, or a feature inside a perspective, right? Is that really what you're getting at?
Absolutely. And, a little bit further from there is just imagine bringing in a data scientist. You're like, okay, I'm going to give you this data feed. And he looks at your tag structure, and it's using P&ID or engineering names for these tags.
Yes.
The context isn't built in. He should be able to kind of understand what's going on.
Right.
Even yourself should be able to just understand what's going
Yes.
on. You have to empower yourself.
Well, I'm going to share a story with you. I've seen cases where someone takes an old system, Signet, Wonderware, one of those, and what they do is on the data engineering side, they contextualize it by having the SCADA team export the data and then contextualize and make sense of it before they pass it to data engineering, without realizing that if they just did it at the edge, they'd have a much greater capacity to avoid that complete process. Get rid of that completely. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So doing it at the edge, right?
Yeah.
We have to do a lot of it at the edge for our legacy hardware that we can't afford to upgrade. There is some more progressive hardware out there where your clean tag structure, maybe it's not exactly what you want, but that could actually be in your PLC program code.
Got you.
So pushing it as far back to the hardware as you can is helpful, because you'll benefit from that the whole way as it streams up.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, when you see that, okay, let's say, great, I've evangelized the UDT, and I'm getting some good progress in your mind. When someone sets themselves up that way, what other elements can they position themselves in aside from the base at the UDT? If they really had to step back and look and say, man, I set myself up. The first thing I did was UDTs all the way. I really want to value that right at the edge.
I have a good one for you.
Okay.
All right. So the next thing that a lot of people need to do, and of course I'm in oil and gas, so maybe I'm just kind of talking about my industry.
It's energy tech. Bring it. Bring it.
There are a lot of users of ignition who are still using Vision.
Right.
There are a lot of users who are still building brand new projects in Vision.
Yeah.
You need to start leveling up your staff, your skills to build. Everything you can needs to be responsive and flexible, because guess what? If you do that up front, you can use that in the mobile app. Don't just keep letting it be an afterthought that we're going to get to mobile, to responsive to all the other people who are not in the control room with their mega screens. We have to start using this more flexible. And there's a lot to learn. It's challenging, so it's intimidating. But once we learn these skills, it can just be your second nature, and you can get really fast at building it right.
Yeah, well, you said something that I appreciate, okay? What you said was enablement, what I heard loud and clear. The other part is the digital expectation for mobility.
Yeah.
Right? So, Jonathan, here you are, UDT structures. Second is that digital expectation for mobility, right? You're setting yourself up that way, pushing yourself outside of, Vision moving into perspective modeling so you can start building those responsive apps, right? So that's another piece. Once we take that data in terms of scaling architectures, because I think you have some input here. Mobility is one piece of perspective. What about your take on just scaling your architecture, right? Hey, Wendy, what's a rule of thumb in your mind when you hear, holy crap, we started with, I'd say 500,000 tags. By the end of some discovery, we determined we got 1.1 million.
So
it happens.
And we heard that in one of the keynotes today, where they were talking about, you may have started small and then you had to expand and you had to expand. There are many companies that I've seen where that is horrifyingly traumatic and time consuming. So have that conversation as early as possible, even before you install Ignition.
Yeah.
Talk about, hey, does our company buy other companies, right?
Right.
Are we going to get more users, right? So up front, if you can plan that and plan your back-end architecture and the tag providers and things so they can scale, you can almost scale infinitely. Like, infinitely is pretty big, but you can't keep scaling, and the front end is the same, right? If you know you might need another front end, figure out the load balancer and get prepared to have this almost infinite scaling of the front ends and so forth. So as early as possible, that's the right time to talk
So
about
what I'm hearing then is someone can do an architect. In my mind, I see that as a planned little architectural drawing, and you're just simply saying, okay, here's what we got. If there's something we have to do and make a determination for merger and acquisition, right? I'm going to add another facility. Let me draw a little gray box here that's going to resemble my next, let's say another gateway, right? Or it's going to be another piece of the architecture. I think that's what you're saying here, right? Is that, hey, you want to plan for that, so you can scale, not infinitely, but you can scale so that when your company, so we had a project where we added facilities, and in the middle of that, they come back and say, hey, guess what? We bought well pads. We need to add them, right? We need to add them in the middle of your iteration, right? Now, we still got to quote it and all the, you got to do all those things. But my point simply is that you have less fatigue and less time if what I'm hearing from you is enabled and have the ability to the foresight to say, okay, we need to plan that architecture ahead and make some determinations and decisions.
Yeah, it's laying the framework, and it's not that much more work, but you do have to think about it up front. You're like, connecting your perspective app to the tag providers and defining it in a way that, hey, if I have multiple of these, hey, make it easy for yourself to add more and so forth. So it can,
Is it fair for me to say, too, that with Ignition, like, it shouldn't take you days to quote your architecture, right? I mean, you can pretty much go to the site, decide the modules that you need, come up with a price, say, here's what it looks like. I mean,
no, it doesn't. It's not that complicated, and they've built a really cool tool to actually build out that architecture.
Yes.
Brad built that, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
One of those tools, but no, I mean, at this point, especially in my line of work, the fact you can get the dollar amount instantly by going to their website, like it's quick.
Yeah, so it's pretty quick. All right. First of all, Jonathan, what this has turned into is not a conversation, man. This is a masterclass. Right here. All right. I don't want to use that word. I was going to wait till the end, but I couldn't hold it back. This is what you're giving us right here is a masterclass in Ignition. All right. And so part of this, I want to talk to you of two things. Number one is the integration of cloud data. You've talked about the UDTs. You talked about moving over and essentially shoving out vision, saying, hey, look, let's get ourselves ready for perspective. Third, let's consider our architecture all the time in how we might grow and what we're looking at, especially with things like merger and acquisition. And then now, with the leverage of MQTT and cloud data, you've instantiated your data, you've made it clean. What's your take on being careful with on-prem versus maybe, some bridging of cloud data?
Well, Does anyone do on-prem anymore?
No, well, you'd be surprised. I
Well,
think, you know,
for the most part, these servers are usually always running in a data center somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's probably in one of the big
a
data
VM,
centers.
yeah.
So I don't think as much of a conversation anymore because you can just go ahead and connect those things because you're pretty close. You're kind of in your private cloud, and you're going to connect some of those cloud things.
Yeah. So you see that. All right, Jonathan. I'm going to ask you just a couple more, just the last part of my questions, because if it could, I would keep you here for like longer.
Give me some easy ones.
No, well, no. I want to ask you this before I get to my final question. Well, let's ask it. What is your take on three things, especially right now with this hype cycle in AI, machine learning, and MCP?
Okay. So I had to do some soul searching. I'm kind of resistant to hype.
Yeah.
I've seen enough of it over the years. I thought for sure blockchain and blockcoin was going to be in my daily routine, but I'm not using blockchain at all.
Right,
But
right.
So for me, it helps. I finally realized the terminology is changing. Just like IoT, when it came out, the definition was not good. It was
Right.
bad. But eventually it coalesced into a specific thing, and okay, here's where it merges back into OT and SCADA. The robot overlords have confirmed, and they're confident that machine learning is just a subset of a bigger AI umbrella.
Correct.
Which actually makes sense because that's what everybody's calling it, right? They don't care what it is. It's just
Right.
a general term.
Sure.
We never called it AI when we were doing machine learning, but I guess we've been doing AI for a while.
Right.
I think we should not ignore what's happening. Now, being patient is actually pretty good because this stuff is evolving so fast. No reason to skill up too quickly because it is evolving quickly. But things like generative AI is changing how people learn and how people code. We cannot ignore that.
Yeah.
And with some of the advancements that just came in Ignition, like the tag structure being in file-based and the MPC module that's coming, it will change how we create these SCADA systems and manage them. It is.
Yeah, I think
They're pretty confident. I saw them up there thinking about it, and I think we were all thinking it too.
I think so. I think MCP is going to be released pretty soon here in one of those numbered releases. I think we're going to see that MCP server and see lots of capability. Again, me personally, I think I see some easy wins. The easy wins for MCP in my mind are three main areas. The first one is alarm management. I think that, typically with alarm management, you're using lots of time series data in alarms. So there's an easy win there for either, you've got lots of categorization of alarms, so there's lots of room there. I think the second one where you might see this is in your standard pipeline data, making recommendations on pipeline data with MCP. And then I think the final one, or I kind of I don't say anomaly detection because that's a big, broad subject. Okay. I do think that the third one is going to be maintenance management. So that could be in fleet compression where we want to get back to understanding in our fleet, hey, when was the last time we serviced a piece of equipment? When was the last time, what was our mean to repair? Something that's simple that you can work out using MCP. I think those are some good tests, for model context protocol, and where you're connecting Ignition, you've got MCP, and then you're basically querying the large language model, with some questions, where you don't need anything complex. You're just really getting back some information to start.
So I'm confident that I'm not sure what the best, I don't know what the biggest wins will be out of MPC. I think most people don't. I think we'll be surprised, but I think pretty soon we're going to start seeing some cool stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things is just being able to see and manage the entirety of Ignition, right?
Yeah.
There's unprecedented connectivity between things that they're adding, so I think it's going to be a busy year.
Yeah, it is. Last question, because we got to go, man. In your mind right now, Jonathan, what do you hope to take away this year at ICC 2025 that you haven't taken away yet? Because you still got another, the rest of the day and tomorrow.
Wow. You know, I've already kind of been reinvigorated. I have a list of at least 5 or 10 things that I'm going to dive into this weekend when I get back. You know, seeing one of the biggest things that you never stop doing is just talking and having these conversations with thought leaders and people who are really excited about what they do.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm definitely going to do, you know, the rest of the day and tomorrow is just continue to get a little more of that energy. And I don't know beyond that.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that we're going to re-engage you throughout the year, and you and I will hopefully return. We're wanting, you know, Energy Tech to return. But with that, Jonathan, thank you for coming on the show. This conversation evolved into a masterclass in ignition. Thank you so much, Jonathan Huddle with Electron Automation. I want you to go and like and subscribe the Energy Tech podcast. We are here in the heart of Sacramento with ICC 2025. Jonathan, good to have you, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Awesome.